values, moral issues, government, economy, education, work, responsibility. What we think about these depends on our worldview. Now, VCY America presents Worldview Radio with Brannon House.
Welcome to the broadcast. Glad you guys are with us. So here is my topic today. The GOP is allowing foreigners to take over America. Yeah, you heard that right. The GOP is allowing foreigners to take over the United States of America. And many of these foreigners are on the SNAP food program. They come here, they don't assimilate, they don't work, they're involved in organized crime. And if you doubt that, go up to Minneapolis, where the Somalis just milked the whole system up there to the tune of millions upon millions, right? We have imported gangs and thugs and rapists and murderers and child molesters. That was during the Biden administration. And then there's the GOP invasion. The GOP invasion, and by the way, while you're all distracted by the gang members, the terrorists, the jihadis, those from the Marxist countries and the Islamic countries that came in under Obama and Biden, the GOP, they're bringing in workers on work visas that are taking your jobs, clogging up your schools, clogging up your hospitals. That's the GOP. This is one bird with two wings, as so many have said over the years. And maybe you thought, oh, that's just so doom and gloom. Well, it is one bird with two wings. The left brings in, as I've already explained, the jihadis, the terrorists, the Marxists, the community organizers, those who can get on the federal dole, the state dole, the Cloward-Piven strategy, collapsing the welfare system. That's the left, as I said. And then the GOP brings in and they take your jobs so that there is a destruction of the middle class. They are two corrupt parties. Are there a few good people in one or two of these parties? Yeah, no, but that's few and far between. Almost all of them are bought and paid for. Almost all of them are bought and paid for in one way or another. Maybe they are blackmailed. Maybe they've been bad little boys and bad little girls and even caught on video doing things they shouldn't do. Maybe they've just been bought off the old-fashioned American way, money. Their wife gets a really high-paying job to basically do nothing, and her husband's a congressman or a U.S. senator or a high-ranking state official. Maybe it's the other way around. There's some way, not to mention how many of our people working in this administration are registered foreign agents who are taking six figures a month from places like Qatar or Qatar, depending on how you want to say it. We're in big trouble, folks. And if you think the GOP is going to save you, they are not. Let me go to an article that came out today, and I stumbled on it. And the headline, you know how they throw you ads for where you live? You know, they'll say, houses selling like hotcakes, and they'll name of your town, or houses about to collapse in prices, and it names your town, or, the best realtor or the best accountant, and it names your town, and it's targeting you because they can do that. They know where you live when you're online, and they can throw you ads that are tailored toward you, where you live, or what state you're living in. So I saw this early morning, a headline, and it was at a website I go to often to read the news, revolver.news, great overnight replacement. The Federal Express decline and fall of Collierville, Tennessee. And I thought, so that's probably some kind of paid advertisement to get me to read this article. Well, wrongo. It was not. It was an article for everybody to watch. And what it's about is our little town of Collierville, Tennessee, where I've lived now for almost 21 years. And FedEx, which is based here, they hired a CEO to replace Fred Smith, an Indian dude, Raj, of course. That's his name, right? And I thought I found that out a few months ago, and I thought, now why would they choose to hire this guy, this Indian fellow? And I'm not against people from India, okay? I'm not talking Native American either. I'm talking India. I'm not against people from India. What I'm opposed to is people from India who come over here on work visas and take American jobs. So I don't care if they were from, some other country, name the country. I don't care if they were lily white and from some other country coming in here taking American jobs. Has nothing to do with the Indian people, has nothing to do with them being non-white, has nothing to do with the people group, the pigmentation of their skin, nothing to do with that. Again, they could be lily white, coming from a country of Irish folks coming over here to take our jobs, and I'd be screaming and hollering. But they pick a CEO to replace Fred Smith, who died this year, the founder of FedEx. And I'm like, why did they pick him? Now, I don't know if it's, oh, and by the way, there was another one that was picked to be the CEO of a huge company here in Memphis, I won't name. Logan, remember when you were younger, didn't you do his yard work? Yeah, he was Indian too, wasn't he? Was he born and raised here? I doubt it. He had a very thick accent, didn't he? And his mom didn't speak English. He brings mama over. And I know the company. Logan knows it. He was the CEO, wasn't he? He was nice to you and he paid you well when you did his lawn and all. So I'm not saying they're not nice people. This has nothing to do with how nice they might be. They might be nice, very, very nice people. And I've had a few of my friends here in town that are from India. One of them used to run the pack mail facility where I had all my mail. I very much liked her and her husband. Hard workers. He worked at FedEx, by the way. They ended up moving to Texas and buying hotels. I'm not making that up. They were entrepreneurs, and I loved them. Now, she was born here. She was born and raised here. Her parents weren't, but she was. Hard workers, okay? So let's give credit where credit is due. Hard workers. Very smart people. And by the way, they take good advantage of the opportunities that America has to offer, unlike many of the people born here. So there are many qualities about the folks from India that are to be admired. Education, family, taking care of multiple generations. They have a very close-knit family. I mean, there's a lot that we as Americans should learn from them in regards to how they treat their elders, how they save and work and invest. And they are one of the quickest families that come here, and within one generation, boom, they are off to the races financially. I mean, I don't want to hear about white privilege. And I've said this before, even this story. You guys know for several years I've been writing, and I wrote it in my book in 2018, Marxianity, about what about the Indian privilege, Asian privilege? So much for white privilege. The Asians are kicking us all down the street when it comes to income and so much. They get out of poverty very quickly, and their families excel. So this is not about them, folks. This is not for you to hate on them, to treat them unkind or be disrespectful or less than Christian to them. This is not about them. It's about our government. It is about greed. It is about an anti-American ideology of Americans, American corporations who are more interested in the bottom line and political correctness than they are America. So I'll say it again. anybody that's listening that's from India. This is not because you're from India. I don't care where you're from. The issue is the fact that we have American legislators, American government, American corporations importing people to take American jobs. You say, well, there are Americans to do these jobs. Well, maybe there aren't enough Americans to do some of these jobs. But maybe if we open back up our trade schools, if we didn't tell everybody to go to college and get a degree in feminine studies and all this other garbage, maybe if we, and by the way, what happened with the workforce development boards I was warning about in the early 90s? That we're going to project the supply and demand of the workforce and tell everybody what job they should be going into and studying to be ready for. Well, they did a pretty poor job because they've had since the early 90s when they established these workforce development boards that tell us, oh, by 2025, we're going to need these kind of workers. So we don't have to bring them over here from India and Asia. Because the government can't project the supply and demand of the workforce. They can barely project the weather. So here's the headline at revolver.news today. Great overnight replacement. The Federal Express decline and fall of Collierville, Tennessee. Now, before you think, oh, this is just about his town. I don't care. I'm turning it off. No, this is any town USA. This is multiple Fortune 500 companies that are doing this. We're just going to use this article as an example. But this is going on everywhere. Here's an article headline, How Indians Take Over Fortune 500 Companies. Another whistleblower employed at a Fortune 500 company discusses the takeover of his company by Indians. 20 years ago, we would have 100 Americans working and maybe 3 to 5 Indians. Now we have 100 Indians and 3 to 5 Americans. If Americans could see organizational charts, what's that, Logan? Okay. If Americans could see the organizational charts of these companies of American left in it, they would be very upset. All of our upper management and hiring managers are Indian, and they're not hiring Indians. Thank you for giving me the heads up in my earpiece, Logan. There was a guy cussing in the article, and he said, be careful. Now, this is very important. All of our upper management, this is a whistleblower, all of our upper management are Indians. All of our upper management are hiring managers that are Indians, and they're not hiring Americans. So you bring us back to FedEx, based here in, well, the tech buildings in Collierville. They got a CEO, an Indian CEO, and apparently he's hiring Indians. Now, again, I wouldn't care if he was from Sweden and hiring all white Swedish folks to come in here on work visas to take our jobs. It'd still be a problem. Now, I'm going to go back to the Collierville article because, again, it explains the fact that you have these Indians taking over Fortune 500 companies. But it's not about the Indians, I'll say again. It's about the American corporations that are apparently wanting some diversity. I've been, I guess, told that this is how you're politically correct while you get cheap labor. Don't go away.
You woke up with a sore throat and a low-grade fever. You know you are getting sick, so here's your choices. You can get sicker and miss work. Try to see a doctor this week or sit hours in a crowded waiting room at urgent care.
I have a smarter option for you. Open your medical emergency kit. Match your symptoms to doctor-recommended prescription in your booklet and take the right meds now and get well faster.
This is not a first aid kit. It's like having an urgent care in your home. It includes doctor-prescribed medications to treat over 39 medical issues like respiratory infections, strep throat, pneumonia, UTIs, and more.
No waiting to see the doctor and no standing in line at the pharmacy. It's right here.
Every home should have at least one medical emergency kit, and here's how to order.
Go to worldviewhealthcare.com. Your kit to treat dozens of common and serious illnesses is rushed to your door. worldviewhealthcare.com. That's worldviewhealthcare.com.
The emergency kit available at worldviewhealthcare.com. Make sure you don't have to go to urgent care. I got pneumonia. I didn't have to go. I took this last year. Stayed at home. Went to bed. Welcome back. Glad you're with us. Worldview Radio. Website, worldviewradio.com. By the way, last night I had a whole hour on Lesson 51 as I'm teaching through the book of Revelation. Lesson 51. And I finished up Revelation chapter 21 last night. I have never taught through an entire book of the Bible. And I'm telling you, I've had so much fun and I have learned so much. And when I do this, I find out just how stupid I am. Man, if you want to think you're smart, start studying through a book of the Bible and you'll realize how much you don't know. How much I yet have to learn. And I have learned so much. And frankly, you know what's pretty exciting, as I dealt with last night, and I'll get back to the topic. Do you know when we get to heaven, we'll keep learning? People think heaven's going to be boring. Well, they don't understand heaven. Because we're going to be learning, and guess what we won't have? The curse, a sin nature. We'll be able to use our full brain power and learn and explore galaxies. Literally, you'll have a resurrected body like Christ, and you can go instantly to places. And there's going to be exploration. And we're going to be ruling, those of us of the church age, will be ruling over the nations, which really means Gentiles, which are those who come out of the tribulation in their physical bodies, roll into the millennium, begin to have children. Those children have physical bodies. They roll out of the millennium into the eternal heaven and earth with the new Jerusalem coming down out of heaven. And we'll be ruling over these nations. We're going to be very busy, but we're going to be exploring and learning and inventing. And then it says in Revelation chapter 21 that the nations will bring their glory to Jerusalem. They will come through the gates. Remember the 12 gates. One gate will be one individual pearl, which, as I said last night, isn't that fascinating? Because the pearl is often how the gospel is described. The pearl. Don't cast your pearls before swine. That's the gospel. Someone blasphemes Christ, blasphemes the gospel over and over. Stop it. Move on. It's a pearl. You know what the great thing about a pearl? It was in the time of Rome. It was considered one of the highest, most valuable commodities. There was nothing that man could do to make it better. It was what it was. And I said last night, isn't that really the gospel? There's nothing that we can do to make the gospel better, even though man tries with their man-centered gospel, their prosperity gospel, their man-centered gospel. Let's take a survey of the community and give them the kind of so-called church they want to make it more appealing. But you can't make the gospel better. You can't make a pearl more beautiful. You can't make a pearl more valuable. There's nothing man can do to add to it. The gospel's the same way. We just present the gospel. It stands on its own. It's priceless. And the gates going into the New Jerusalem will be one individual pearl. 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles by 1,500 miles cubed. And the nations will be bringing their glory, the glory of the Lord in their exploration and in their discoveries to the Lord. Isn't that something that we're going to continue to learn? And I mentioned that in the context of how much I have learned studying the book of Revelation and how much more I have to learn. Now I'm going to finish up Revelation chapter 22 in the next probably 2 weeks and move into the book of Daniel. I'm excited to see how much I don't know. All of the studies, by the way, are at Worldview. No, what are they? They're at lastdaysstudy.com. Lastdaysstudy.com. And I'm pretty sure the last night's program is already available on Worldview Tube for you to watch on demand. But all 51 hours are there free of charge, brought to you by our foundation, worldviewfoundation.com, worldviewfoundation.com. So I mentioned that. Now back to this topic of the GOP. The GOP is selling out the country. In India has, ask Logan to look it up. India has the third most Muslims of any country. Okay. So how many? 213 million Muslims. Indonesia, Pakistan, India, Bangladesh, Nigeria, Egypt, Iran, Turkey, Sudan, Algeria. So India, number 3, 213 million Muslims. So how many of these that are coming here from India are Muslim? Well, it's your GOP that's bringing them here, folks, with your government. This is why we're not a free market system. And by the way, when this free market system collapses, you better be ready to explain to your children and grandchildren, that wasn't the free market system that just collapsed. That was what you call corporatism or communitarianism. Big word, means big government, big business, merging together, working together. Big government, big business, in cahoots. That's what that's been. That wasn't capitalism. And then you add all the Christians being persecuted in India. Then you add all the Christians being killed in Nigeria. So let's go ahead and let's bring in all of these people that are going to persecute the Christians and the Jews. And your GOP is doing it. So here we have FedEx. That's the example. Collierville, Tennessee, our town where we're based. This is the article at revolver.news today, but it's any town USA because I've already read to you the headline about how Indians are taking over Fortune 500 companies and they're hiring Indian managers, and the Indian managers are only hiring Indians. So FedEx has this guy. Let me just read the article. For 2 generations, Bob's family didn't just work for FedEx. They were part of the Collierville community that the company built. His father, a Collierville native, retired as a respected FedEx pilot. Bob followed him into the company, securing a white-collar technical role and the promise of the same stable, prosperous life in the Town Parade magazine once named Best Main Street in America. Remember me telling you that our town square is like Mayberry? It was literally named Best Main Street in America by Parade magazine a few years ago. Some of you went down there when you came to our town. You went down to our main street. Cute, adorable. And by the way, I was shocked by this article, and I live here because, look, guys in the control room, is it just me, or do you see a lot of Indians when you go out? Okay, Thomas says yes. I'm going to say I see some. I saw some this weekend, but I don't see a lot. But I did go by some of the apartment buildings over the last year or so. And when the bus stops and the kids get off the bus, and you're required obviously to stop because the stop sign goes out on the side of the bus, and you stop and you watch all of these kids pour off the bus and their moms standing there in the apartment buildings outside for them to get off. They're overwhelmingly not from here. Mostly Indians. Now, they obviously don't eat at the restaurants I eat at, and they don't shop, most of them, at where I shop. And I even sent this article around to folks in Collierville today, guys. And you know what someone said back to me? Where do they shop? Have you guys noticed that? Are you just telling me the answer you think I want to hear? Do you guys see them when you're out shopping? What'd he say? Thomas says yes. I don't, but I don't go. Logan says he doesn't see that many. I don't either. And the university has programs that get them to come here from India. Okay. But I'm telling you, I sent this to some locals, and locals said, well, where do they shop? Because I don't see a lot of this. Okay, he did just say a big box store where you get a lot of quantity cheap. I'm not going to advertise for them. And you're right. I saw that. I went there this weekend with the wife. But when I'm just moving around town, I don't, which tells me, guys, they're shopping in their own markets. I'm not saying that's wrong. I'm just saying there has to be a network where they're shopping in their own stores, their own shops. They're getting their own specialty foods. And I'm wondering if they're doing a lot of shopping online. Well, there are Indian markets. And there's 5 where you live. Okay. Well, the reason I'm bringing all this up is because I live here. And I read this article, I'm going, okay, I knew there were some, but not this many. Why am I not seeing it? Well, A, I don't go out a lot. I don't get out a lot. That's true. B, I don't think they shop and eat where we shop and eat. I think there's a market that is very unique to them, which is fine. That they're entitled to their own diet and culture and everything else. What I'm saying is you may not know this is going on in your community because it's kind of, unless you, I guess you have kids in the school, you would maybe not know it, or unless you're in maybe real estate, unless you live in an apartment building where they're really predominant renters, which, by the way, this article goes into the fact that they're building all of these apartment buildings. Now, we talked about this on Brandon House Live about a month ago, wasn't it, guys? And you guys are really answering slow today in there. They are building here in our town so many apartment buildings to the point that it's becoming an issue for many people that live here and have been here for generations. They don't want to be a town full of apartment buildings. But I will tell you, I mentioned on Brandon House Live the other night, about a month ago, what's it called? Water Tower? The Water Tower District. That's the name of the development. And I must tell you, it's gorgeous. My wife's like, I think I'd like to live there. It's no maintenance, obviously. It's an apartment building, 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedrooms. And we looked up the rent. Whew, not cheap. And you're thinking, who is going to be able to afford that? Not the guys in my control room. Don't laugh. Not because you're underpaid. It's just because they're very expensive apartments. They're in there laughing. I'm thinking, who's going to be able to afford this? I said that to my wife. I said, those are nice, but who's got that kind of money in this market? Well, now I think I know. The folks coming in on the work visas, working for big tech companies and big data centers. It's got all these beautiful shops out front. Some of you probably ate at them. Beautiful shops and restaurants out front. And then behind them are the multi-story, beautiful brick, Mayberry, USA looking, laid out like a town, apartment buildings. Now, these are high-end looking. They're very pleasant when you go by them. So I have to thank them for that. These aren't like ugly apartments they've thrown up somewhere. They're very aesthetically nice looking. Manicured lawns, all brick, walking paths, and you can walk out of your apartment, your 1 bedroom, 2 bedroom, 3 bedroom, and go to these places to shop and eat. So it at least looks nice. But I'm like, who can afford this? I was wondering that. Now I think I know. Because here's this article, and it went on to say that the schools, they're going after this guy, Bob, who has been here his whole life, and his dad worked for FedEx. He worked for FedEx. Bob watches with a growing sense of distress as the forest and fields he played in are clear-cut to make way for massive multifamily apartment complexes. His unease solidified into alarm when a friend who teaches at a local elementary school mentioned a startling statistic. Nearly 80% of her students were now minorities, with half of them Indian, who need requiring language work.
Consumers often ask, what should I expect when I take the Bella Grace elixir? And the answer's varied. It really depends on what your health and wellness needs are. I would consider this as your foundational core product for a whole range of health and wellness issues. Let me give you a few examples. If you're a little bit older and you have some joint health issues, some problems with mobility and discomfort, the elixir is going to be your best friend. If you have some skin health issues, wrinkles, hydration, aging, all of those elements are going to be benefited from the elixir, including age spots. Now, if you're in a younger demographic, maybe visual health is where you need some assistance. Eye fatigue, dry eyes, all of those are going to be benefited by the elixir. It's a core product because it benefits so many.
All right, welcome back. So Bob watches with a growing sense of distress as all of these fields are cleared away from massive multifamily apartment complexes. And then a friend of his, who teaches at a local elementary school, mentioned a startling statistic. Nearly 80% of her students were now minorities, with half of the student body being of Indian descent and requiring English second language services. The town he planned to raise his own children in is rapidly becoming unrecognizable. Now listen to this. The story of Collierville's transformation is inextricably linked, I hate that word, to the upheaval within its largest employer. Since the founder, Fred Smith, a local legend, handed the reins to new CEO, Raj, I don't know how you say this, guys, Subramaniam, a seismic shift has rattled FedEx to its core. This article investigates the charge leveled by current and former employees that a new corporate strategy, one that funnels exclusive contracts to a network of Indian-run consulting firms, is dismantling the company's celebrated people-first culture and systematically reshaping its hometown, leaving longtime residents feeling like strangers in their own land. This despite Collierville being a deep red MAGA town. For nearly half a century, FedEx operated as an extension of its founder, Fred Smith, a visionary CEO, built a global empire on a philosophy of growth and infrastructure. His priorities were market expansion and acquisitions, not aggressive cost cutting. Under Smith, IT investments were geared towards supporting a vast logistics network, pioneering innovations like package tracking. The culture was one of fierce loyalty. Mass layoffs were unthinkable, even during the 2008 recession. In Memphis, FedEx was more than a company. It was a stable, lifelong career path that built the surrounding communities. The foundation began to crack just as Smith stepped down in June of 2022. His successor, Raj, inherited a different world. A post-COVID slowdown in e-commerce coupled with rising inflation saw packaging volumes decline. Competitors like UPS and a rapidly expanding Amazon logistics were leaner and more efficient. As FedEx stocks tumbled 20% in a single day in September of 2022, a new and powerful force made its move. The activist hedge fund D.E. Shaw, a significant shareholder, formalized a cooperation agreement with the company. With D.E. Shaw's backing, Raj, the new CEO, was given the mandate to do what Smith never would: radically restructure the company from the ground up. The primary vehicle for this transformation is the DRIVE program. I guess that's an acronym. A sweeping initiative launched in 2023 with the explicit goal of cutting $4 billion in permanent costs. At its core, DRIVE is an IT-led, listen now, IT-led overhaul designed to integrate FedEx's historically separate express and ground networks, a move Smith had long resisted. To execute this vision, FedEx turned to outside consultants, it names who they are, to help build this digital infrastructure. For longtime employees, the shift was immediate and brutal. FedEx terminated long-standing contracts with IT vendors, it names who some of them were. And apparently, I guess what they did is headed off to bring in folks from India on work visas. The IT-driven consolidation has led to the closure of nearly 100 facilities across the United States and the elimination of thousands of jobs. Memphis has been hit the hardest, with 1,200 to 1,300 layoffs around 2025 alone. Since Raj took over, we've had layoffs each year and no growth. Most managers aren't allowed to backfill positions if someone leaves, whether they move to a different department within the company or outside the company. Promotions have stalled, healthcare has gotten worse and more expensive. That's what Bob wrote. Now, I'm going to skip on through the article for the sake of time. But remember now, this is going on nationwide, folks. We're just using this as the jumping off and as the model. Apparently what they're doing, folks, is bringing in a lot of people from outside. An insider with firsthand experience claims the new math never adds up. Hiring 60 people who can't do the job is vastly inferior to 2 people who can, they stated. This approach leads to not savings, but to massive cost overruns as unqualified hires, sometimes with fraudulent resumes, require constant management and produce subpar work. The projects they manage are plagued by delays, bugs, and production incidents, erasing any initial savings on wages as laid out in the original bid. As more of the team gets hollowed out, we see more production incidents, bugs, quality issues, etc. As the load increases, the people who can shoulder it burn out and churn, exasperating the problem. Outsourcing, listen now, outsourcing and mass import of H-1B fraud put a company into a death spiral. Products and services never improve once this process starts. It isn't cost cutting. It makes you leaner the way cancer makes you leaner, but that's what it is. I've seen this firsthand and quit multiple lucrative gigs because of this. The internal crisis at FedEx is perhaps most visible from 30,000 feet. The pilots, long considered the elite backbone of the company's global logistic network, are in open revolt. Every single FedEx pilot I know is looking into alternative employment. One source close to pilots union revealed. Every single one. I can't even begin to tell you how momentously bad this is in the context of airline pilots. That's the quote. The sentiment is not confined to the cockpit. Across the company, from package handlers to corporate veterans, the feeling is one of profound decay. Quote, I was hired in a couple years before Fred Smith handed over the reins to Raj. So wrote one employee on X. I've watched everything change and go rapidly downhill at the facility I worked out of. A former 10-year corporate employee described a systematic replacement of the American workforce. Quote, internal support and IT staff were 100% American back in 2012, she stated. Quote, now 70% of support jobs are Indians here or in India, end quote. The jobs being outsourced are not just high-level IT positions, but entry-level roles in billing, sales, support, and customer service that were once a gateway to a career for new college graduates. Quote, all legacy employees can't stand it and can't understand them, and customers hate working with them too. The culture has changed, and it's so poor, end quote. Well, how many of you have ever done customer support and you get someone on the line with a said company and you can't understand them? And you ask them, are you in India? Where are you? I can barely understand you. Well, now we find out they're hiring them, bringing them over here on H-1B visas, but then they hire the subcontractors back in India, folks. This is going on all over the country. This is not limited to FedEx. I already showed you and told you about the headline, how Indians take over Fortune 500 companies. I have someone that's emailed me in email. Don't show it, guys, but I'll read it. He says, in all the small surrounding towns around me, they have been flooded with Indians from India. My friend is a small business owner in the town. She said that Indians are given 7-year loans from the government, interest-free, for small businesses. My friend struggled with all the red tape to get her business going and no help. They mostly are buying all the gas stations. Well, I want to know what you guys think about this. Because it appears the GOP is selling us out. They could stop this. They could stop these H-1B visas, but I think President Trump has said he wants to see more of it. And then you add to it what came out over the weekend is all over social media, and that's the number of folks that are on food stamps by ethnicity. Afghans, 45.6%. So not only are these folks coming over here, not working, those that aren't, rioting in the street with the Marxists and the Islamists, I have to pay for their living, their health care, their food, their education. We are systematically being replaced. And this is happening with the GOP in charge. Now I have to ask you, I don't know when they're going to open this government up, but apparently the food stamps run out. The SNAP benefits, they run out soon. How many of these folks are going to be rioting. Is that what this is all about? Are the Democrats keeping, and I guess it is the Democrats that are keeping it closed, are they going to keep it closed until they can agitate? Remember the old communist tactic I've told you about for years? Pressure from below and pressure from above. Pressure from below at the street level with your community organizers, and pressure from above from your community organizers that are in high places in government. This is a right-left Hegelian dialectic. And you could cancel these work visas and get rid of a lot of these folks very fast. Now you say, but Brandon, there wouldn't be the technology we need, the workers we need. Well, that's part of the problem, folks. And I think that's been done on purpose because we've encouraged people to get stupid degrees like feminine studies and everything else. And we took away the shop, mechanics. We didn't encourage people to go to trade schools. We encouraged everybody to go into the scam of getting a college degree. Now they have, many of them, worthless college degrees. And those that have good college degrees are being offered salaries that are pretty poor compared to their cost of living and their repayment of their loan. But the wages are being driven down by all the illegals that have been brought in by the H-1B visas. Then you add all the, as I said, the other illegals that have been brought in here by the liberals. So you've got the corporate GOP crowd bringing in people, foreigners, as I said, and you got the liberal progressives, Democrat Marxists bringing in the illegals by opening the borders. And apparently they're all getting benefits that we're not getting, that you and I, us poor Slavs, get up every day, work hard, pay our taxes, obey the rules, obey the laws, play by the rules, and we're stuck with the bill and the depreciation of our purchasing power. I got to ask you again, where are the American people? Why are they putting up with this? When is there going to be another Boston Tea Party? Why are we paying federal taxes to have people brought in here to clog up our schools, clog up our waiting rooms at the hospitals, get onto welfare programs, steal our jobs, and we get to pay for the luxury of all that? There's now the food stamp by ethnicity. Afghans, number one, 45.6. Somali, Iraq, Dominican, Caribbean, Native Americans, Puerto Rican, Cuban, goes on down the list. And your GOP is doing it. So I want to open the phone lines up right now. And I want to ask you, how many of you are seeing this influx into your community where they're building a ton of apartment buildings in order to, and I'm like, who can afford the price of these 1, 2, and 3 bedroom apartments in this gorgeous complex they built? Granted, it's beautiful, but who can afford that? Well, I guess I know now. I was asking that a month ago. Now apparently I know. And by the way, for those who don't know, the FedEx Technology Center is actually in Collierville. FedEx is up the road in Memphis, but the technology center's right here in our backyard. But we're not the only ones. Look at all the data centers and the tech companies being built. How many of you are experiencing this? 1-800-347-9829. 1-800-347-9829. Phone lines open. Sound off, America. Hello, I'm Brandon House. I want to thank you for all your support at WVWFoundation.com that helps make possible pushing out 24/7 content for free. Without your support, we'd have to put it all behind a paywall. But thanks to you and your support through our foundation, we're able to push it out for free as a broadcast service and broadcast ministry of WVW Foundation. Please consider going there and setting up an automatic monthly contribution, or go there and make an occasional contribution. If you prefer to support us through the mail, you'll find our mailing address there at wvwfoundation.com. You can also call and make your contribution over the phone by calling 901-825-0652. That's 901-825-0652. Again, all these details are available at wvwfoundation.com. Thank you for your support as we try to help people around the world understand the times through the lens of a Christian worldview. All right, guys, quick comments. Let's roll through as many calls as we can. Unless, of course, you don't care. Unless you're apathetic and passive and don't care that your country is being sold out, your kids' and grandkids' future is being sold out. If you don't care, then don't call in. But if you understand that they are systematically remaking America on purpose to destroy our history, our culture, our language, our borders, thank you, Michael Savage, for the phrase. That's what they're doing. 1-800-347-9829, 1-800-347-9829. My wife often says, I feel sorry for today's young people. You can comment on that. How many of you feel sorry for your kids and grandkids because of what we've done to this country? And by the way, tonight on my broadcast, I'm going to have a big interview with Mitch Wexler, who is documenting what he says is $5.1 trillion in fraudulent school bonds. Fraudulent school bonds, $5.1 trillion. I just talked to him today, a guy that it was a nationally known guy. He's a nationally known guy who's been involved in some of the financial crises and in the room when the decisions are made, took his information and said, I'm sorry, your numbers are even worse. It's not $5.1 trillion. It's $17 trillion in junk school bonds. And by definition, a Ponzi scheme where more bonds are put out to fund the ongoing interest payments. That's tonight on Brandon House Live. This is what we're leaving to our children and grandchildren. And what is going to happen when this collapses? Oh, it's capitalism. It failed. And now you watch Mindani come in here and the guy out of Minneapolis. And this generation says, yep, that capitalism failed. Let's vote for the Marxist, who happens to be also an Islamist. And you're going to wonder, how did this happen? I'll tell you, your GOP is as corrupt as the Democrats. And anyone that tells you otherwise probably works for the GOP. Let's go to the phone lines. Jerry in Minnesota, line 1. Hi, Jerry.
Hello, Brandon. Thank you for taking my call. I thought you were reading a script from my own experience. I work for a large organization in Minnesota, has 35,000 plus employees, and I've seen lately a lot of upper level and managers come in from India, and I work in the IT department, and they farm out a lot of our work to contracting companies from India. I don't see the H-1 visas and that sort of thing, but everything else is like a script that you're reading from my own experience.
Thank you, Jerry, for confirming it. And again, I want to reiterate, folks, this is not about being against the people from India. They're just taking advantage of an opportunity given to them. And many of them that do come here and eventually get their citizenship and stay and start having children, those kids go on and work hard and they get good paying jobs and education and they work hard. So this is not about being against the people. This is about our government and our corporations. Okay? I want to reiterate that again. Line 2, Bruce from South Dakota. Thanks for calling in, Bruce.
Yeah, basically 2 words, from within. That's where most of this is coming from, just like you're saying, you know. It's all from within, you know. We're being taken over, you know.
It is, Bruce. Thank you, Bruce. 1-800-347-9829. And by the way, we have a platform that our whole system's built on called Drupal, okay? It is a very complex computer system. The code is an open source Drupal. Fox News has been on Drupal. The White House at one time has been on Drupal. Many Fortune 500 companies are on Drupal. It is a very expensive language and programming system. WordPress. I can find WordPress programmers. You can't swing a stick without hitting someone that can program WordPress. Drupal, different. And people can argue about what's better, Drupal or WordPress. They can argue all day long. But I chose to go with Drupal because it is a specific program that is really built for multimedia companies to do what we do. And we can do an awful lot with it. And we've had this program for years. And the point I'm making is it's very hard to find Drupal programmers here in America. Very hard. And they're not cheap when you find them. Now, I have one, and he's from the South here, and he does a great job for us. He's American. But I have been pitched guys from India to do all of our Drupal work from India over and over and over. And boy, are they a lot cheaper. Now, you often get what you pay for, but I can understand to some degree why people get desperate and like, well, I just need a programmer. I can't find one. That's also, again, part of the fault of our media, our schools. We should not have any shortage of workers in America if we were doing the right thing, but we're not because it's been orchestrated like this. But I'm not buying work from India because I want to be an America guy. Let's go to Aaron, line 3. Aaron in Wisconsin. Thanks for calling in, Aaron.
Hey, Brennan. Yeah, gosh, the light went off in my head when you were reading that article because here at Port Washington, Wisconsin, right on Lake Michigan, it's a nice suburb of Milwaukee. We're getting a giant data center soon, whether we want it or not. But then I work in the school system. I've been there for a few years, and I have really noticed that, like, we're in like 99% white traditionally here. But I've really noticed a lot more people from other countries, and I would say noticeably India, which I'm fine with that, but I wondered, like, what's going on? So we're seeing that here as well.
Yep.
Schools and jobs.
Well, thank you for telling us, Aaron. Yeah, and again, it's not against the people. It's against our government that's stealing our jobs. Sharon, line 2. Thanks for calling in, Sharon.
Hey, Brandon, I got a comment. I'm actually calling you from Milwaukee, Wisconsin. And this goes back, I want to say, almost 20 years with this Indian immigration business. I used to work as a rental agent at a big complex in Greenfield. And we used to have quite a few apartments that were specifically set apart. And everybody that would come in was Indian on these visas. The apartments were set apart. Now, the reason I'm saying that is because those are the days when we still had Briggs & Stratton, Allen Bradley, a lot of our big companies, and this is where they were farming them into. And then they would graduate from the apartment. They would find them condos, and that's how it went. And this was quite a while ago. Second part of my comment is people don't care, don't know, don't want to know. I work at one part-time. I'm retired at one of the biggest malls in Wisconsin. I see Indian people come in there, the whole family, 7, 8, 10 people. When one comes, they bring the whole family.
And American workers, this is what we're talking about. We're not talking against the Indian folks, against the corporations doing it. Take care.
This has been...
And that's our broadcast on those stations. And the phone lines are really getting lit up here, folks. I want to go back to what Sharon, though, said. A lot of people are apathetic. They're like, I don't care. I don't care. The apathy is overwhelming. The passivity is overwhelming. There's only a small percentage of us that are awake. A very small percentage of us that are awake. The article goes on to say the official census data tells a startling story. Between 2010 and 2020, Collierville's population grew by 11%. During that same period, the town's established white and black populations, which together once made up over 80% of residents, remained numerically flat. The entirety of the town's growth came from new arrivals. Specifically, the Asian population exploded by 230%. This rapid demographic shift is mirrored in the town's citizenship data. In a decade, the non-citizen population in Collierville more than doubled from 3% to nearly 7%. The rate of growth far outpaces the rest of Tennessee and the United States as a whole. Thank you, FedEx. Nowhere is the speed of this change more apparent than in the local schools. At one Collierville elementary school, children of Asian descent now make up half of the student body. The number is a stark indicator of a demographic reality far more recent than the last official census, one that residents see on the ground every day. The students are counted as American citizens, even though their parents often do not have citizenship. Quote, anyone who has lived near Collierville in the last 15 years is fully aware of the Indian takeover, end quote. One person commented on social media. Quote, I've seen large groups of Indians playing cricket in the town square, end quote. Another who lived across from the FedEx's world headquarters described the area bluntly. Quote, it's all Indians. They are absolutely everywhere. It's mini Mumbai, end quote. The sense of displacement extends to the very career path that once defined the town. A 34-year-old FedEx employee shared her frustration trying to get her daughter, who holds a master's degree in business analytics, an interview. Quote, we had an Indian VP of HR, end quote. Quote, when I asked for the application, I was told there were more qualified applicants, end quote. Her son, who has the same degree as FedEx's founder, had a job offer rescinded. This feeling of inorganic, corporate-driven change worries longtime residents. Quote, the H-1B visas have drastically changed the demographics of our small town way too quickly. It is certainly taking its toll on the community. People are starting to move farther out or just leave the area. I don't have an issue with immigrants, but driving through a neighborhood and only seeing Indians, it feels like something is going on, end quote. Phenomenon is not isolated to Collierville. A former resident of nearby Cordova witnessed a similar pattern before moving out of state. Quote, almost everyone working in the city of Memphis IT department is an H-1B visa Indian. They do a full purge of their white employees. They did in 2020, end quote. For many, the conclusion is that this is not a natural evolution, but a deliberate corporate strategy that extends from the executive suite down to the most junior roles. As one observer noted, quote, it's every single mind and low-level employee too, end quote. Every single mid and low-level employee too, end quote. One software consultant whose company counted FedEx as a major client saw the collapse firsthand from a vendor's perspective. Quote, the change you described is exactly when I noticed that the company went off a cliff in terms of competence. They swept all the good Collierville area staff who had built all their technology in the past, and everything became unreliable. I always wondered what had broken so badly behind the scenes, end quote. A number of salesmen recounted his first sales rep at FedEx spoke perfect English and was extremely knowledgeable and available. However, starting 2 years ago, he would get a call from a new Indian rep every month introducing themselves as the new account rep. None provided any assistance, nor updates or callbacks with issues that have come up. According to the lumberman in his brutal testimony, according to the lumberman in his brutal testimony, the so-called updated shipping label system, quote, doesn't work most of the time, and nobody can seem to schedule a simple automated pickup system for us. 10 years of shipping with them exclusively, around 1,000 packages per year, and we're overhauling the entire shipping system to a more expensive UPS. It's just not worth dealing with the incompetence. Wow. Well, I guess you get what you pay for, folks. The story of FedEx's decline and Collierville's transformation is a microcosm of a quiet crisis that has been unfolding across the United States for decades, though it has accelerated greatly in the past 5 years. What began with a change in leadership from founder Fred Smith to the new CEO has culminated in a vote of no confidence from his pilots, an exodus of loyal customers, and a community in the heart of Tennessee that is now unrecognizable in its lifelong residents. All driven, folks, by the H-1B fueled model. Wow. Welcome to America. And the GOP is selling you out for big companies, big corporations. So much for Make America Great Again. May God save America. Take care.
Colonel Rob Maness has a lifelong record of providing dedicated service to this nation. Having worked his way up from the enlisted ranks to full colonel, He served our country for more than 32 years. He has served as a bomber squadron commander, bomb disposal technician, Joint Chiefs of Staff Operations Officer, assisted the National Security Team with the campaign plan for the global war on terrorism. He authored the first theater nuclear war plan and served as the Vice Commander of America's largest airborne intelligence wing. Colonel Rob Maness is a true American hero. This is Rob Maness Live.
That said, this is almost 6 years ago exactly now as of this video. I had not spoken to him in person or on social media. He started the conversation. You know what he said? 3 words. You are terrific. Now bear in mind, this is back before I was blessed with the followership I have now. I had fewer than 10,000 followers on Instagram, very small Facebook presence, wasn't even on TikTok at the time. But the fact of the matter is, this young man, this leader of Turning Point USA, reached out to me and saw something I had done. And he felt so moved that he reached out to me himself to encourage me. And then he went a step further. He invited me to the BLS, which is the Black Leadership Summit Turning Point USA was putting on in Washington, D.C. I told him, transparently, I was in between jobs and didn't have the money to fund my trip. He told me that they had scholarships available and to email him directly and he'd be able to take care of it. I did, and that's the story of how I got to be a part of the Young Black Leadership Summit, which was instrumental in springboarding me to where I am today. Now I share that story because he didn't have to do that. And if he was a racist person, why would he do that? I'm so tired of people being besmirched by the tired liberal lie that anyone they don't like has to be some sort of racist. And I'm not immune to this. They call me racist myself. Of course, it's ridiculous on its face, but this is the nonsensical nature of your average leftist. They really want you to believe deep down Charlie Kirk hated all black people. He saw the best in everyone. He saw in me something I didn't even quite see in myself at the time, and he chose to encourage me. That is why I will literally and metaphorically pick up that mic and continue the work that he started, because I myself and many others are tired of being slandered and maligned by individuals who have nothing to sell us but fear, panic, and lies 24/7. I had to share that story with you. I thought about keeping that to myself, but the more I see him being typecast as some sort of evil person, the more I cannot be silent, and I hope that you will not be silent as well. It is time for action like never before. It is time for voices to rise like never before, and I hope you will join me in that effort. So that is the real Charlie Kirk, the one they don't want you to know, but the one I will continue to remember and honor with my actions into the future. So those are my thoughts. Hopefully you share, and hopefully you get busy as well, because we all have microphones to pick up, and we are all Charlie Kirk.
Welcome back to More War Monday. The Rob Maness Show is live on Worldview Tube and our X Spaces simulcast. We must continue to engage in the war for the truth. We support efforts to honor Charlie Kirk in order to knock down the lies everywhere. And folks, 10 days ago, the Military Times published an article stating that motions to honor Charlie Kirk by members of the Air Force Academy's Association of Graduates had been withdrawn, implying in the article the withdrawal was under pressure from members opposing the idea, presumably because they believed he was racist and a controversial figure instead of the strong patriot and man of faith that he was. President Donald Trump appointed Mr. Kirk in March to join the Academy's Board of Visitors. It's a very important group that meets several times a year to provide advice on issues including curriculum, student morale, and academic methods. And when I saw the article, I reached out to a member of the AOG board and got an immediate response: fake news. And my guest today is retired Lieutenant General Rod Bishop, United States Air Force. General Bishop held many key positions throughout the U.S. Air Force, where he commanded airmen at every operational level, including 2 squadrons, an operations group, an airlift wing, a numbered Air Force, and Air Command Europe, while also completing numerous strategic Air Force and joint assignments throughout the Department of Defense. He is Chairman Emeritus of Stand Together Against Racism and Radicalism in the Services, otherwise known as STARS. You can find them at stars.us. And he is the Air Force Academy Association of Graduates board member that submitted the motions to honor Charlie Kirk. General Bishop, sir, welcome back to the Rob Maness Show. It's been too long.
Hey, Rob. So good to be back with you.
Yeah, I was researching for this show. I went back to our very first visit together over 4 years ago
Wow.
about this very issue, the issue of getting people framed and smeared so that their reputations are difficult to hold up in the public. And I appreciate you coming on.
Well, very good. I look forward to as you accurately painted Charlie Kirk did in his life, getting the truth out there.
Yeah, absolutely. Well, sir, let's remind everybody, if you don't mind, just why STARS was started. I think that's a very important piece of the story. And then how you came to be a member of the board of directors and the Association of Graduates, because those two are linked, aren't they?
They are, very much so. STARS was started because our football coaches put together a 3-minute video in which Black Lives Matter, the slogan of the organization, was essentially chanted 7 times in that 3-minute video. We engaged with the superintendent over a period of like 3 months, trying to get him to understand that that issue was going to be divisive. Unfortunately, standing up against that infusion of basically Marxist ideology is seen to be divisive rather than the other way around. Black Lives Matter, I think, as we all know, they told us they were Marxists. They're against the Western nuclear family. They're looking to overturn capitalism. Why a military academy would allow its coaches to chant that slogan is beyond me and thousands of other cadets. So we stood up STARS. And then, fast forward, we eventually got the video down, but we saw elements of critical race theory, DEI, creeping in, not only to Air Force organizations, but across the services. And then some of our younger supporters said, hey, take on the vaccine mandate, will you? This is illegal. And we initially just shrugged our shoulders, hey, you're in the military. But the deeper we dug, we found ground truth there. And I think one of STAR's proudest accomplishments is at least helping significantly in getting the vaccine mandate overturned. So now fast forward to the Association of Graduates. I can't say that I was a willing volunteer. I mean, I love my academy. I love my alma mater. However, I figured I had given 5 years of my life, but I was somewhat pushed into, hey, keep standing up. You have a duty, so okay. Take it on. What I see there is still an ideological divide, and I think part of that ideological divide is caused because under previous administrations we never had that professional dialogue that the association's articles of incorporation call us to do. Quote, promote a professional dialogue. Instead, disagreements about DEI, its Marxist roots, its intent to divide, etc., were just swept under the rug. So there's the connectivity, and I think we can all see it happen through the person, the man that Charlie Kirk was.
Yeah, so I wasn't surprised to see attempts to honor Mr. Kirk at the Air Force Academy and by the Association of Graduates, at least some of the members anyway, because he had done his first Board of Visitors meeting. And folks, the Board of Visitors is a critically important set of political appointees that really can drive almost everything at the Academy, isn't it, sir?
Very, very much so. I mean, STARS had met with a number of Board of Visitors members ahead of time. Two of the congressmen on the board twice, Charlie Kirk a number of times. In fact, Charlie had started a signal chat so we could keep them informed of what was going on, what cadets were telling us, etc. So like you, Rob, I was not surprised either. I was the recipient of tens of emails, phone calls. Hey, we have to find a way to honor Charlie. I would say that we have to find a way to honor a member of our Board of Visitors who is assassinated doing exactly what our founding fathers wanted us to do as a nation, have a robust dialogue. I mean, he was killed under a tent that said, prove me wrong, let's talk about it. And so the initiatives that came in were three groups. One was to make them an honorary grad. That one I thought, although I like ideas, nobody I'd rather have be a fellow grad, to be honest. I thought that was a long shot because it's a very high bar, 80%, short tenure. The bylaws say 25 living grads. That maybe could have gone through, but I had planned on withdrawing that one. The second one I kind of was my favorite, which give them an honorary degree, kind of a fun poke at our back at our West Point friends, since they had allowed them to entry into West Point. Plus, I was just moved by the vision of Erica Kirk walking across the stage next May and seeing Falcon Stadium light up.
Yeah.
The third